Welcome to the Swipe Right Effect podcast, where we will be sharing with you the power to get unstuck by swiping right on yourself. Your host, author C.K. Collins, aka Kelly, gets personal with her guests, sharing stories of themselves getting unstuck with wisdom and guidance. Where do you feel stuck? Are you waiting to get your new life started after a big change? You've come to the right place. So with that said, let's get started.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Swipe Right Effect, the power to get unstuck. I'm C.K. Collins, also known as Kelly. And today we have Brielle Cotterman as our guest, and I'm so excited for you to meet her. She is a powerhouse. This woman has been on TEDx. She's a contributor to Entrepreneur Magazine. She's been in the Miss America contest and continued to help them along with that. That's so cool. I love that empowering women part. So Brielle, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Kelly.
Tell us a little bit more about you. What should our listeners know about Brielle?
Well, I am a wife of just over 4 years. I have 3 children, excuse me, and I really pride myself in being a working mother. I own and operate multiple businesses. My passion lies in helping women to make a positive impact in the world and on their bottom line by stepping onto the world stage. And I do that through our organization, Braille Cotterman Media. I'm a publicity expert and a celebrity maker. And I'm also a world's grand champion equestrian. So I have a passion for all things outdoors and horses and animals specifically. So if you don't see me at an event or helping one of my clients prepare for television, you'll probably find me outside with my animals or, barefoot walking around in the grass. It's one of my favorite things to do.
I've been hearing a lot for, I don't know, I guess, how the universe just puts stuff in front of you, but I've been reading a lot about getting your feet on the earth and the energy that comes from that and how important it is to connect with the earth just through your own feet. And it's like,
absolutely,
I'm just now hearing this.
Well, is it okay? So Kelly, here's the thing. I grew up on a farm, so I have been grounding long before it was chic. This is just like a way of life, okay?
Yes. Yeah, I was grounding naturally as a total tomboy,
Yes, likewise.
running through puddles and catching tadpoles. That was
But it's really good for you. It's really good for the soul.
Yeah, I love that. Before grounding was chic. Too funny. Well, I think and thank you for sharing about yourself. That's amazing.
Thank you.
I have 3 kids myself, a little older than yours. One of the things that I really admire about what you're doing is some people really don't know how to step out with the story that they have. And I was in the news business before, and so telling stories is really one of my passions. But part of your story that really touched me is you are a survivor of an attempted murder as well as domestic violence. And you really kind of empowered yourself by telling your story and actually ended up becoming a spokesperson for a nonprofit that deals with domestic violence. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So, excuse me, when we think about the things that go on in our life that are challenging or difficult, it's really easy to step those things down, hide them, feel shame around them, to let the idea of stigma intimidate us or scare us from sharing what is our reality. And so I am an advocate against domestic violence, and I promote a world where survivors are met with empathy and understanding, and domestic violence is not tolerated. And having not grown up in a home where domestic violence was present, I had no idea of the warning signs, and I experienced a lot of non-traditional warning signs. And the thing that we all have to remember is domestic violence is more prevalent than being in a car accident. It's more prevalent than getting the flu some years. And we have to, as a culture, start to have difficult conversations, whether it's around domestic violence or mental health or any of the things that we as a collective have decided are things that, we should be ashamed of for some reason. We have to start having those conversations and shining a light on some of these topics that are darker if we ever want to make a transition and we want to shift the narrative and make positive changes within our culture. And so that was really the impetus for me to step out from playing small professionally. I let that story hold me back for a lot of years, Kelly. I was doing the work that I do currently, but I wasn't sharing my own journey. I was hiding behind that because I had so much shame around the idea of being a survivor of domestic violence and attempted murder, because I'm well educated, I'm successful, I'm all of these things. And in my mind, that meant I shouldn't be in that position. And that couldn't be further from the truth, because domestic violence does not discriminate. And what we recognize is, as the most underreported crime in America, what we don't see is that this happens to all age ranges, all socioeconomic classes, all education levels, and not just to women. And so it's something that's happening very regularly, unfortunately. And the idea of being ashamed of something that is such a common occurrence, it's just something that we have to let go. We have to start telling our stories, and we have to tell our stories in order to get the help that we deserve, but we also have to tell our stories in order to help others. And that's really, that moment when I stepped from behind that story and stopped hiding behind it and started owning it. It did quite a few things for me, and it allowed me to quadruple the size of my business in less than 1 year, because I was really starting to create connection, which is very closely related to our personal brand. And my personal brand shifted, and it became more authentic, and it became real. And that doesn't mean that when we share our stories, we have to share every detail, because we don't. But what we do need to do is share stories that create connection, but also share stories that make a difference.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I've experienced that myself. Having written a book about my recovery from divorce, and sharing my own story was really powerful and cathartic. But I also, in every chapter, I interview a different person, and ask them, what was it about me, or what is it about you that you gave me that advice that helped me heal? And so you end up hearing 11 women's stories. And it was, as about halfway through interviewing all these women, I'm realizing the power that's happening, the energy that's happening. And it's, when your energy starts rising, so does those around you, and I think that
absolutely.
And so all these book clubs I go to, book discussions I go to, and they're just like, thank you for sharing your story. It helped me be able to say what I'd wanted to say for 30 years. I'd never told anybody what happened to me before. And
absolutely. And when we do share our stories, we give people permission to claim the stories that might feel like things we want to hide, or things that we are not proud of. And so, because what it does is it normalizes it, because those are all part of the human experience, going through challenging situations, overcoming, going through divorces, going through losing a job, going through an abusive situation, dealing with addiction or mental health issues. That's all part of the human experience. And not every single person is going to experience every one of those challenges. But what it does is it creates connection, because it allows me to see that my challenge may not be the same as yours, but I can claim that because you're sharing your story has given me permission to do so.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, my word for this year is gather. And so it's been, all of that interaction with women, especially coming out of COVID, of that whole,
yes, let's gather, please.
Really not. Yeah. It's like every book signing, I just want to stand and talk to every person for like 10 minutes, but you can't do because there's a line. But yeah, the connection that came out of me sharing my story has been just something I'm so grateful for. And it's been me completely rebuilding my own personal brand, like wrapping my head around, okay, now I'm an author. And
Sure.
now I'm, which has led to something I just renamed, I gave myself my own title because I couldn't come up with anything that was already out there that sounded right. But my life has completely transformed over the last 6 years. And, I went from mother, wife, business owner to kids, empty nester, divorced woman. I sold my business. So it's like, who am I now? And I think that when somebody goes through transition, sometimes they need some help. And so I've started calling, I've named myself the Life Transformation Guide.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Because that's
the thing. I think that's where the most power lies, the most potential for power is in the transition.
Yeah.
So when we are, maybe we're an expert in our field, or maybe we've built an incredible business and then things change. We decide we want to be an author. We decide we want to pursue, television, or we want to make a positive impact with a volunteer organization as an advocate. When we are in transition, that's when we really have the opportunity to claim all of ourselves. But you know what? Here's the thing. Transition can be scary, but that's the one part about being a woman that is consistent throughout our entire life. Things are constantly changing. We're constantly in transition from one phase to the next, even physically, mentally, and emotionally, not just in our work lives or in our relationships. But that's the one consistent piece. So really being able to embrace that change and find and being able to identify, who am I, what do I do, and what do I stand for at each phase? That's really what a really dynamic personal brand is about.
Yeah. So my transition ended up leading me to creating a program for women who are in transition. So I'm excited to, announce that you are one of the masterclass teachers as part of the Momentum Effect. And you're a world-class leader on personal brand. So I don't want to hide your all your knowledge from the listeners any longer.
Well, thank you. Well, I'm honored to be here today. I'm honored to be a part of the Momentum Effect.
Oh, thank you. So one of the reasons that I wanted to work with you was because I think women between 45 and 65, as a natural part of their lives, are going to change and they're going to be in transition. But when I was at all those book clubs and I was at all the book signings and book discussions and conferences, I was seeing this, people are in transition, but they don't know what to call it. And it was like, I feel like something's missing. There's just kind of this void, and all that energy I used raising my children, now I don't know what to do with it. And I think I have more to give. And, and it was just all of these questions, just existential questions, and they don't know what to do. And I started realizing that was one of the most positive things that ever happened to me, was that feeling like something's missing, not knowing what's coming next, because the search to find the answer was one of the most powerful things that's ever happened to me. So that's awesome. I'm spreading the word that this means your soul is telling you you're ready for the next thing. You're ready for your next chapter. And that's why you're feeling that, because your soul's going, okay, let's go. It's go time. And so I think this whole thing about recreating yourself is a really important time to think about personal brand. And when I think about personal brand, I don't think about just work. I think about how I show up with my family, how I show up in dating, how I show up at church, in my community service, my board service, with my clients. So I am excited. I want you to tell everybody kind of just, how do you see personal brand? And how, especially related to women.
Absolutely. So here's the thing. I've been in the PR space for more than a decade. And prior to that, I was in very high level sales and marketing. And one of the things that I recognized in the PR space was that people can come in and they can look really, really well qualified on paper. But it's the people who claim their story and the power that comes with it that can really skyrocket to success. They're the ones who aren't the ones plateauing after a certain amount of time. They're not that here today, gone tomorrow, flash in the pan type success. These are the people that have longevity because they create connections. And the other thing that we have to think about is they're the people who have done the work on their personal brands. So they don't just one day decide, you know what, I want to pursue publicity, or I want to go onto the TEDx stage and just run out there. They actually take the time to do the thoughtful foundational work. And that's what we do as an organization that is so different, because we understand those stories and the personal brand piece. That is what gets you the connection with your prospective client or your prospective reader or whomever that might be, but it also creates the connection with the media decision maker. What it does is it creates connection with human beings. And so a well thought out and crafted personal brand that is extremely authentic transcends profession, but it also, as you said, it's a part of everyday life for all people. And I like to say that your personal brand is the way you leave people feeling. That's the way you leave people feeling when you interact with them in person. And if it's well thought out and well executed, that's the way you leave people feeling when they check out your website, or they go to your social media, or they hop on your email list, or they see you on a podcast or on a television appearance. Because your personal brand should be an extension of who you are, what you do, and what you stand for.
And you just have to embody that. And
absolutely. So how do you leave people feeling? You know, I mean, it's a question that I ask my clients all the time. If you really think about that, how do I leave people feeling seen? Do I leave people feeling important? Or am I really busy thinking about the next thing that's going on, and looking the other direction when someone's talking to me? Or, you know, there are habits and things that we get into because we are so busy that can really undermine our success. And so we may have really good intentions, but if we're not really thoughtful about identifying those intentions, then sometimes, you know, we can get off track. And when we're in transition, it's a perfect time to re-examine that. It's a perfect time to examine, how do I leave people feeling? And I may do a brilliant job when people are in front of me, and gathering is amazing, and I'm all for it, and I'm just thrilled to be having more in-person interactions. But we also have to be really thoughtful right now, because we spend so much time in front of a screen, and it's really awesome because it gives us access to people all over the world, but it's also a hindrance. So it's an added barrier to our communication. So we have to be even more thoughtful about the words that we say, the way we introduce ourselves, our messaging, how we speak, and our body language, because we don't have the opportunity to reach out and shake someone's hand or touch their arm, or, you know, even if we're not allowed to do that, but I'm a big hugger, but you know, we don't have the opportunity to do that as often because we are connecting so frequently virtually. So a personal brand is even more important in those situations.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, you're very clear on your website and with your personal brand that you want to work with people who want to make an impact on the world, want to have a positive impact on the world, are trying to make a change in the world. And
yes.
So this may be kind of an existential question, but why is that important to you?
So at my core, I have an advocate's heart. That's who I am. For me, the greatest part of the work that I do is through we work primarily with women. We work with male clients as well, but we work primarily with women. And through all of the clients that I serve, I have the opportunity to touch so many different causes and to help to elevate those and bring awareness and create a positive change and positive impact in the world. And so for me, that is the most important piece of what we do, because, you know, and I look at it from two different perspectives. One, we want to make a positive impact by creating awareness and educating. But when we also impact the bottom line of businesses that do have a social component, that do have a social cause, and they care about making a really positive change in the world, we are doing good by making a positive impact in that bottom line. Well-funded causes are always far more powerful when they have that funding and those dollars behind them.
Wow, that makes total sense.
Yeah,
I never really thought of that way. Yeah, that's great. I mean, I've sat on, I think it's like 7 boards, and and money is always an issue for nonprofits, and
Absolutely.
and so it's like, what's the next, everybody's looking for the magic sauce.
Right.
The story, it's usually in the story, it's usually in the brand, it's usually in the passion of why that happened, is my experience. Is just, do you know how to tell your story well enough to connect with someone, and can you do it authentically enough that it's a lasting message, not just
Oh, I completely agree.
some
I
little
completely agree.
catchphrase.
Yes. And, and that's where, so it really sets my soul on fire, honestly, to help people to make a positive impact in the world and on their bottom line. And we all have to have a passion. We all have to have, I call it your passion story, but we all have to have that why behind what we're doing. And if the why is rooted in something that truly drives us, something that we really care about, and we want to make a positive impact, then there's no going wrong there. So by elevating that story, elevating that why, we have the opportunity, like I said, to create education and awareness and brand awareness, but we're also in turn doing good things in the world. And so to me, it's just like, that's a perfect mix. I'm not saying everyone has to have a charitable organization or a social campaign, but having a passion or a why that is a part of what drives you. I think sometimes when we get into business, we don't necessarily think of that. We don't necessarily bring that component in. We're just focused on products and dollars and cents and services and those sorts of things. But when we leave the heart out of the business, that thing struggles. So to your point of bringing in that story and telling it in an authentic and heartfelt way, that's where we create connection and we can really make a much larger impact.
Yeah. So in December, when we do the masterclass, we're going to be talking about a personal brand of positive impact. And a big part of that, I believe, is gratitude and generosity. I mean, we can probably separate those and talk about them. But
yes.
But I did want our listeners to hear kind of your take on gratitude and how that plays into your personal brand.
Well, my personal experience with gratitude is, being a survivor of attempted murder. There's no logical reason for me to be here today. And I'm a huge believer that hurt people. And fortunately, I also believe with all of my heart that helped people help people. And so for me to have not only the opportunity to be here and to be living and, to have the opportunity to live the rest of my life, but also to recognize what is the help that I might have needed? What is the voice or the message that maybe would have jarred me into seeing more clearly what was going on, giving myself the opportunity to not have to experience the things that I did when I was in that situation. That's when I think about gratitude, what gratitude means. So it really, for me, is a practice of not only expressing gratitude, but being present and showing up in the world in a way where I might be or provide a message that another person could express gratitude for. So to me, it goes two ways.
Yeah, I think I try and mostly succeed.
Right.
Having a daily gratitude practice, like recognizing 10 things a day that, and making, really, sometimes I just zip through that list and I was like, wow, that wasn't that sincere. Let me go back and do that again.
Yeah.
But I try to make it different things every day and every week and every month, because I do see it make a difference in the world. And I recognize that if I'm grateful that energy and that light is getting shined on the person at the grocery store, if I'm grateful that they helped me today, the postman, the city workers who are, helping us get through these storms and getting the electricity back on.
Sure.
All these things, like there's simple things, but if you sit here and think, wow, that air conditioner wouldn't be working right now if these people weren't doing their jobs and doing them well. And so, I mean, you can take it to this absolute macro level, but then also so important to look at your own micro level and what is what's the impact of my gratitude,
Right.
for this very house that I'm sitting in and the car that I get to drive, and that's it's all for very first world. So many people don't have what we do, and are absolutely better at being grateful.
Right.
But I think it's changed my life having that gratitude, and I think I've had friends say to me, like, one of the things I admire about you is you do tend to you show your gratitude, you express your gratitude to
Right. So, and that's a beautiful part of your personal brand, So I have 3 children, as I mentioned earlier. My daughter is getting ready to turn 16, and then my son is 11, and then we also have a son who's 2. He's getting ready to turn 3, and so I literally say to my children as often as I can, I'm so grateful for you. I do it so much that my little 2-year-old will walk around and he'll say, Bubba, I'm so grateful for you, So I feel like at least I'm doing a good job in that respect, because I really want to model that for my children, because not only does it have a really positive impact on the whole world, but it has such a massively powerful impact on us. If we operate from a place of gratitude, then everything is better and easier. At least in my experience.
Yeah. And we all have people in our lives that live from a negative frame of mind, and
Right.
modeling that is,
Uh-huh.
can be impactful to someone else. Like if they are stuck, say they got a divorce and they're still mad and they can't ever let the anger go, modeling that I'm grateful for what I did have and the years that I had it. And now I'm grateful for what I have now. And I'm grateful for the person I became because I went through that. I'm not grateful for the pain, but I'm grateful for, who I am now because of that.
As a result.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's hard to hear that when you first get separated.
I think it's hard to hear that when you're in any sort of challenging situation, I mean, looking back at my experience with, that massive trauma, in that moment, or even in the near future after, was I able to find pieces of gratitude? That would have been a challenge. I was grateful that my life was spared. But beyond that, being able to find gratitude for the situation, I think sometimes it's so challenging. It's hard to see the forest for the trees, when you're right in the midst or even right afterwards. But, being more than 10 years removed from that situation, I know that there's no way that I would be the person that I am today had I not experienced the challenges and the trials that I had to endure.
Yeah.
And being able to get to a place of gratitude for, as you said, who you are on the other side, that's a journey. But once you get there, it's a really powerful place to be.
Yeah, I agree. And I am grateful for it. So the last thing I really wanted to touch on was generosity, because I think, if the people you work with are trying to change the world, you're genuinely in a place where you're asking others to be generous, especially if you're in a nonprofit, you need people to be generous with their resources. And so one of the reasons that I started the Momentum Effect was I wanted to empower women to take this journey on redefining themselves, their personal brand, their defining their life purpose, creating a vision for themselves, but also recognizing that all that you have and all that I have, everything we've lived has created this resource. And when you die, you take it with you, unless you find a way to give back while you're here. Share what you know, share how you love and everything that you learned through love and loss and experiences and everything. You are a resource that's been built in this universe. And so the end of the program is basically, okay, what is your legacy? And so and I think generosity is always a really good place to start talking about legacy, because like I said, you take it with you if you don't find a way to disseminate all of your gifts. It's a gift that was given to you. How do you give it back? And you have to be in a generosity mindset to do that, because we're still busy. We're still going to travel. We're going to, we got to do the bottom line. And I think, how do you help somebody get into that mindset to where they know they're giving back in the right way, in a positive way for them, but also for the other people?
Yeah. So for me, I think that the most important part to remember about being generous is the impact, but it's also understanding that, I see so often people advising, saying, don't give away your content, don't give away your approach, don't give away all of these things. And the thing that I tell my clients over and over and over again, and this is the way that I've operated my business for years, and this is part of the reason why we do have so much success. I am totally open and willing to share my intellectual property, to share our strategies, to share those sorts of things, because the real difference is me. The real difference is our organization. And so if I can give someone valuable content or information or guidance that's going to go move the needle for them, I am thrilled and I am honored to be able to do that. The real difference comes when they need a service provider who's going to be there for them and help them to elevate their personal brand so that they're in that press-worthy level and get to the place where they are the leader, the thought leader, and the go-to niche celebrity in that space. I know that they will come to me because I have been generous with them. I have helped them to progress and to make a positive difference. So I know that not only am I doing good with the knowledge that I have and the knowledge base that we've created within our business, but then we're helping them to do good in the world. And so for me, that that's one of my biggest pet peeves, is when I hear people saying, don't give away all of this information and don't give away this content, and they're advising other people. And to me, I think that, maybe for some people that's the right choice, but for me, and the way my heart is, I am all about sharing the good, basically, sharing the wealth and sharing the information or the tips and the experience or the tips and the tricks or whatever it might be that's going to be able to help somebody make a positive shift, even if they're not necessarily, going to be my one-on-one client. That doesn't mean that if I can help them, I'm not going to do so.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's, it seems to always come back to your, the manifestation, like
Agreed.
The way you act and the things that you do come back to you. So if you are generous, the universe is going to return that. I think, for those of us who believe in God, God recognizes that and honors that. But you put that energy out of generosity, others' generosity will come back to you. And I think we all, need to keep having that conversation, that you're responsible for whatever you're putting out, you're responsible for that. You got to own it.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. And so
I think there's a lot of fear. I think there's a lot of fear around, just from a professional perspective, sharing strategies and, sharing that sort of thing. And I'm not recommending, that you do work for free, because of course we want to all own our value, but being generous with what you do have and what you can share can make a massive difference for other people. So, really embracing that, as I think understanding your worth has a lot to do with the ability to be generous. Yeah. Understanding that when the time is right, this person will be my one-on-one client, or this person will join one of my programs because I have helped them in a way that I didn't have to. And I chose to be generous with what I do know and what I can share.
Yeah.
It speaks to your integrity and who you are as a human being and your personal brand, and allows you to create connection, because that's something you didn't have to do. You could have hidden that behind the veil. But instead you chose to empower those people to go out and do their own good in the world.
Yeah. I love that. The integrity. That was a 1-2 punch, Brielle. I love that. So, thank you again for being here today. I really
absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I believe your website is briellecotterman.com. Is there?
It is. It's for anybody who's listening and maybe doesn't have the notes in front of them. It's BRIELLE and Cotterman, COTTERMAN.
Awesome. Is there any other way that they can find you, maybe on social media?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's Brielle Cotterman. There again on Instagram, which is super easy. It's Brielle Cotterman on all platforms. And that's always the best way to find me. And from our briellecotterman.com website, there are additional pages that have more information about our celebrity incubator program, what it looks like to work with us. Any questions that anybody might have. We've got some really awesome complimentary downloads that talk about building your own personal brand and the power of publicity. So yeah, we would love to have anybody who has any questions or would love to take a step closer to us to join either through social media or the website. Great.
And you can also be part of the Momentum Effect and hear Brielle's masterclass on a personal brand of positive impact. That will be the name of the class. And so we'll, glean wisdom then too.
Awesome. Yes, I'm looking so forward to it.
Yeah, me too. So last question I asked all my guests is, what feeds your soul, Brielle?
Well, we talked a little bit about it earlier. It really sets my soul on fire to be in service. I can tell you that when I started sharing my story, I told you, I hid behind that story of being a survivor for a long time. And when I finally started sharing that story and I created this massive connection, I realized that there were more women than I could even have imagined who have been through life-changing experiences, good, bad, or, whatever they might be. And they really had a deep yearning and desire to share that with the world and to make a positive impact. And so being able to facilitate that, being able to help them to step onto the world stage and share that story, I felt like when my work really became that focused, I was stepping into my soul's work. There was so much alignment, and I knew with every fiber of my being that I was doing the work that I was created to do.
Yeah.
And so that is my purpose, and helping people, entrepreneurs and leaders with a cause to step onto the world stage and to share their message with the masses. That's really my calling.
Yeah. I love it. I love the glow, the energy, everything that comes from a woman when she knows her life purpose. Like, yeah, it is just a higher frequency. It is golden. And so I love that. And if you're only listening to this, you should go watch this on YouTube and see the two of us glowing because we found our life's purpose.
That's right. I'm sitting here with goosebumps. So
yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I can't wait for Momentum Effect for these women to find their life purpose and really connect to the world.
It's going to be an amazing experience. Yes.
It'd be cool. All right. Well, thank you. And thank you, Brielle, and thank you, listeners, for joining us today. And we'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks,
Kelly's book is available on Amazon and through your local bookstores. Look for the Swipe Right Effect, the power to get unstuck. Kelly's interviews with 10 friends from around the world unlock powerful truths to getting your new life started.